Hey everyone, thanks for checking out Chicago Humanities Tapes, the audio extension and archive of the live Chicago Humanities Spring and Fall Festivals. With nearly 100 events, discussions, and performances each year, our programming connects people to the ideas that shape and define us, and to the lifelong exploration of what it means to be human. For more information on upcoming events and how to support Chicago Humanities through membership, visit chicagohumanities.org. On today's episode, actor, comedian, writer, and producer Ed Helms sits down with podcast host and producer Greta Johnsen to discuss his career, his beloved role as Andy Bernard on The Office, and his book SNAFU, which brings you an absurdly entertaining look at history's greatest screw-ups. Here's Ed Helms talking with Greta Johnsen on May 3rd, 2025, at the First United Methodist Church at the Chicago Temple.
Hi, everybody.
Hey. All right. Are you ready for my sermon? Because, yeah, this is intense. That's a lot of stained glass.
So yeah, it's the stained glass that's doing it for you?
We're going to get real. We're going to get holy.
Oh, are we really?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
We go deep.
Is it true that this is not the first House of Faith that you've done a book tour event at?
Yes, that's correct. Last night?
When was that? What is time?
Where did I just come from? 2 nights ago, I was in a synagogue in Washington, D.C. So,
Nice.
Yep. Is that for synagogues or Washington, D.C.?
That's a really good question.
Yeah, they both deserve applause. They're both fantastic.
So Ed, congratulations. You wrote a whole ass book.
Whole ass book.
How does it feel?
I'm so proud of it.
This thing is packed with so many just like completely wild stories about this great country we live in.
This wonderful world.
This wonderful world. How has book tour been so far? How far in are you? Can you count the days?
Yeah, so I started in New York, and then it was Philadelphia, D.C., Atlanta.
Okay.
And then I flew here from Atlanta, which is my hometown. And yeah. And then from here I will go to Boston.
Nice.
And then to San Francisco, and then to L.A., which is my home now, but I will also be doing an event there.
Okay, nice.
So the tour, this is like right at the halfway point.
Oh, no, good. How does it feel so far?
It's been so fun, and I'm fried, and my voice has dropped like 3 octaves because I'm not getting enough sleep, or the airplanes or something. I just feel like I'm Barry White all of a sudden. But
I mean, I can't imagine, like, I think it's always extra interesting talking to people who do like write for a profession, especially because they're so isolated all the time. And then the contrast of that to book tour is just like, seems completely mind blowing. Yeah. Like at least you're like somewhat used to like a press junket for stuff.
Yeah, this is different though.
Is it?
Yeah, this feels more like we don't do this on a movie, to promote a movie.
Sure.
And honestly, like on a movie, you just go to one place, usually a hotel in New York or Los Angeles, and you just do a junket where you talk to reporters for 2 full days. And then all that media spreads out all over the country and the world, and that's doing all the work. But with books, they want you to just like globetrot, just get out and go and pound the pavement, and it's awesome. It's great. I've met so many incredible people, and I can't wait to meet some of you after the show. It's just, it's really, I don't know, it's uplifting.
It seems like the energy you would get from getting to do something like this, where you are like sitting in a room and you get to engage with all these humans who are really excited to be here. And like, that's gotta be pretty cool.
It's damn cool. And that's a huge tribute to, yeah, that's applause for you for being here. Thank you. Thank you for coming. I really appreciate it.
So this book stemmed from the podcast SNAFU that you host, right? So tell us, like, I would love to know at what point as you're hosting this podcast are you like, oh, there's actually a book here?
Yeah, pretty quick.
Really?
Yeah. So the podcast, just to give you a little context, the podcast came first, and the book is kind of an offshoot from the podcast, and the podcast came about because everybody was doing podcasts, and
Correct.
you were doing a podcast. Everybody's doing these great podcasts, and I was like, hey, I want in on that. But then of course it was like, well, what's it gonna be? So I just have always loved I've been always curious about history. I always get sucked into these little like history wormholes that I love going down. And so I was like, okay, I can do history, but what's that then? But I want it to be funny. So what's funny? Like, oh, okay, like the SNAFUs, like the train wrecks of history, the stuff that like is like funny because it's terrible. That's a good kind of hook or like an organizing principle for the podcast. And so we launched into that. Built a great team of researchers and I'm so proud of the podcast. If you haven't listened to it, there are 3 seasons out. God bless you. There's 3 seasons out, and they all each one is a very deep dive into one thing, like one historical snafu. And it's very immersive. It's a very kind of like cinematic audio experience. Our North Star making the podcast was Radiolab. Who are the Radiolab fans? Yeah.
That's an ambitious North Star too.
Well,
I mean,
absolutely. I actually was. I went to college with Jad Umrad,
of course,
and he's a dear old friend, and so I was sort of like a fan of Radiolab back when it was just a WNYC show, and then what he did, like what Jad, he just blew up audio storytelling in such a crazy cool way.
Yes.
And now it's ubiquitous. Like you go back and listen to Radiolab, you're like, what's a big deal? But no, it's a big fucking deal.
Yeah.
Like, can I say that here?
I mean, how do you feel about it?
I don't know. I'm paralyzed all of a sudden.
All right, now we know.
But no, he really did something special. And so that was like, we just wanted to feel that immersive and that sort of like, so that's the podcast. And then when you research SNAFUs, like humans are dumb. Like humans are we're so dumb. And history, when you start to look back at history through this like kind of polarized filter, and you're like, okay, I'm just looking for the fuck ups of history. They just start to roll in like an avalanche, and you're like, well, this is too much for the podcast, so got to write a book.
So here's the book. That's delightful. So you use the term train wrecks, which I think is very apt in this situation. I would love to hear more about your criteria for what makes a snafu, because I feel like you are towing a line here, right? Like it can't be too catastrophic because like Chernobyl is just terrible. Whereas, these things like, sure, trying to put a microphone in a cat, like that's got a humorous angle to it.
It's horrific in its own way.
Sure, yes.
But no, that's a great question. It's sort of like it speaks to kind of like the curatorial voice of SNAFU as a kind of brand, if you will. And I think there are a couple of criteria that are important to me looking back. I don't know that the sort of darkness or the human suffering aspect of a SNAFU is necessarily a
deal breaker.
A deal breaker because there are with the right. I mean, Mel Brooks made the Producers about Hitler, and like I feel like the right lens can kind of like put a fun new spin on things, even things that are fraught. But really, the most important thing for our team looking back and researching these things is what's not in the like. What's not in our collective memory, or what's sort of like on the fringes that maybe only a few people know about. Because really, I want the podcast and the book to feel like discovery for people, and for people, and also discovery in like maybe they knew a little bit about something, but I can give you like a fun new angle. Season 3 of the podcast is a great example. It's all about prohibition, which everybody knows about. The country passed a law, you can't drink anymore, and a bunch of gangsters shot everybody. And everybody knows that. But season 3 of the podcast goes into this really crazy story within prohibition about how the government, in its effort to deter people from drinking during prohibition, began adding poison to the industrial alcohol supply, knowing that the bootleggers would distribute this to the consumers and it would be drunk, and thousands of people died.
Oh my God.
Thousands of people died at the hands of the U.S. government. And it's a wild story. It's also kind of a cat and mouse detective story. It's very, very cool. And I hope we made it funny too. That sounds dark.
It does sound pretty grim.
But it's really, really cool. So that's one of the main things. And then yes, can we chuckle about it?
Sure. I do feel like there's always a sort of like you can't make this up kind of vibe to it too. Like it is stranger than fiction, which I also kind of love about, like, I mean, the microphone and the cat thing, I think is a perfect example.
Yeah. Okay. So Greta keeps referencing the microphone and the cat. I'll tell you exactly. I'll just tell you this story because it is insane.
It is.
And it does. Yes. So it's the Cold War. It's the 1950s. The CIA is looking for all kinds of ways to gather intel, commit espionage, and apparently no idea was a bad idea because somebody came to work and said, hey, cats are good at hearing because they have those cool like cup-shaped ears and they're directional, and they're also really furtive, and everyone like trusts cats. No one's like scared of a kitty cat. So why don't we surgically implant microphones into their ears and then train them to go and like just sit next to bad guys, I guess was the idea.
The training piece is where it all falls apart. Yeah. It's like, do you know a cat?
Yeah,
like,
and
it's not going to happen.
They invested so much money and time into this thing, and the takeaway was, oh shit, you can't train cats.
It is wild to me how many stories in this book are about the CIA going on very similar logic journeys as the one you've just mentioned.
There's another one of my favorites, also Cold War brought out the best in our stupidity. I'll just say there's something about the existential fear of like nuclear winter that just everyone was doing the craziest stuff. Also in the 50s, there was a plan hatched to shoot the moon.
Oh my God.
With a nuclear warhead.
Yeah.
Now you may be asking yourselves, why would one do that? Why would you ever want to do that? The thinking was, and this is pretty solid logic, if we can shoot the moon with a nuclear warhead, the Soviets will see it and they'll be scared shitless. So it was basically just a flex. Like, look how awesome we are. We can actually hit the moon. You don't think we can hit you? We can hit the fucking moon. And they went really far down this path. Carl Sagan was part of this research effort. Isn't that wild?
Yes. Yeah.
Carl Sagan was just out of grad school
at the University of Chicago, right?
Is that right?
I
actually don't know that detail.
I think it might. I think it. We'll fact check it.
Okay.
We'll fact check.
That's cool. That's good to know. He's just out of grad school. He's part of this research team. In fact, the whole reason we even know about this plan to nuke the moon is because one of his biographers discovered they're like reading all of his old papers, and he had an old fellowship application in which he had listed this as like a resume bullet point. And the researcher was like, let me put Carl aside. I'm going to go down. What the hell is this? And it was uncovered, and the Freedom of Information Acts and all this stuff. And, so we now know that the CIA really wanted to nuke the moon. Eventually, they realized that the slightest miscalculation or malfunction could very easily lead to this missile like getting slingshotted around the gravitational field of the moon and just coming right back at us. And my guess is Carl is the one who realized that.
Him. He should have put that in the book.
Yeah, let's not do either that, or Carl was like, you know what, guys? I like planets. I don't think we should shoot one.
Well, wouldn't it, like, it could mess with the tides and stuff. Like, couldn't it have been, like, truly catastrophic?
Oh, sure.
I don't have to talk you out of it. You're right.
No good could have come of it. The other thing they realized is that if they were successful, they hit the moon with a nuclear warhead, like, maybe you could kind of see it, but it would just be like a little dust, like a gray dust cloud, and it wouldn't have that scary effect.
Sure.
And I actually love that particular detail because that is literally Wile E. Coyote, right? Like that's like whenever Wile E. Coyote falls down a canyon, he's like, poof, just a little.
That is exactly what that is.
And the whole idea is just Looney Tunes.
That's delightful.
Like they hired Acme to consult on this project.
Did you watch that TV show White House Plumbers on HBO? About
a little
Watergate with Woody Harrelson.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of the CIA stories kind of have that similar vibe where it's just like shocking how like one, what they're getting away with, and then two, also like the level of ineptitude.
Gordon Liddy.
I mean,
what a just classic American, just classic American right there. I was going to use American as an adjective, and then I was like, no, the noun is what I need.
It's there.
He's a classic American.
Yeah, good. So a lot of these are, you mentioned the Cold War, like farther back in American history, but you have some more recent stuff in here too. It was fun to kind of get some extra layers to, especially Beanie Babies. I thought, I loved that one in here.
Yeah. Who remembers Beanie Babies?
Who still has a Beanie Baby?
Yeah, a lot of people still have them.
That's so wild to me.
We have some. They still sell them. You can still buy them.
Sure, I suppose.
Yes.
They were just so, to think about like the heyday of the Beanie Baby.
Yeah, it was a BFD back.
You're not going to swear that time.
Yeah. So Ty Warner was an entrepreneur and he was a toy maker, and he invented the Beanie Baby. And it was very, very popular, of course, as we all know. But what Ty Warner was actually a mad genius at was like demand manipulation. So he would make sure that stores had like certain stocks of certain beanies and other stores didn't, and there were caps on their numbers, and if any store sold any at a discount, they were cut off from the supply. And he just had all these Machiavellian tactics that basically and evil geniusly skyrocketed the price of these things. And so people started to see Beanie Babies as investments, and that became which sounds insane, but it was very plausible, and people put like lots of their hard-earned savings into Beanie Baby stockpiles. I talk about in the book how there's a court case, a divorce settlement, where they're literally fighting over a pile of Beanie Babies. Who gets the Beanie Babies? Because they're worth a lot. Of course, it was all fake. It was all just fake market manipulation by Ty Warner. And when everyone sort of suddenly understood that, the Beanie Baby bubble burst, if you will, and a lot of people lost a ton of money. And it's actually a very tragic story at the end of the day. Ty Warner went on to buy a bunch of hotels and is worth tens of billions of dollars to this day. So he's fine.
God bless. Thank goodness.
That's the good news. And also, some very good friends of mine made a movie about this story called The Beanie Bubble. I think it's called The Beanie Bubble, starring Zach Galifianakis. It's on Apple. It's a fantastic movie.
It's fun.
And so, yeah.
I think one of my favorite details from that story is about before Ty even starts manufacturing toys. And I forget, was he an insurance salesman or something? He was like going door to door selling something.
He never was not conning people.
Yeah.
Like it was always dodgy.
He like drove a really fancy car and would like come out of the car in like a giant, like it was a big fur coat or something.
Yes.
And yeah, the idea was to like make it seem like he was obviously already had made so much money that like, why wouldn't you want to just give him more money?
Yeah.
Which is, such a con man move.
I mean, maybe we should elect him president or something. I don't know.
So
Uh-oh. There's a red dot on me. Now.
that's a fun joke. In this book, you talk a lot about science and tech stuff, especially like hacking things. I am really curious about a number of layers to that, but one, like I'd love to know how you thought through like making sure that you're explaining things clearly enough that you know them well enough, but also that you're not getting bogged down in detail. Like I feel like that can be really difficult, especially when it comes to, more complicated.
Yeah, for sure. I worked with such a great team of researchers, and I got mad at them a lot because they were just giving me too much stuff. And I was like, how am I supposed to write a chapter that's like 6 pages long? You just gave me 120 pages on a computer virus. No, but it was, I joke because I actually love boring through everything. And I guess I just would always try to whittle it down to some way in which I understood it or it made sense to me, and then just make my wife read it, and because she's not gonna bullshit me. She'll just be like, "This, what? No, what are you talking about? That doesn't make any sense." And then I try to fix it.
It's perfect.
Yeah.
We need to talk about Jimmy Carter.
Yeah.
And then I want to talk about Rutherford Falls.
We need to talk about Jimmy Carter. Guys, I'm worried about Jimmy. R.I.P. Jimmy Carter.
R.I.P. Rest in power.
Yeah, there's a great story about Jimmy Carter in this book. And I am a true Jimmy Carter fan. I grew up in a very staunch, like Georgia Democrat household. My dad was very passionate about Georgia politics, and always, and Jimmy Carter was just a very venerated figure in our household. And I, even going through teenage rebellion, I was always like, but Jimmy's cool. Like, my dad's wrong about everything, but Jimmy's cool.
I feel like that was kind of the general consensus, though, wasn't it?
I think sadly that his more general reputation, he has an incredible legacy. Like when you start to just like evaluate all of his accomplishments, and especially post presidency. But I think that people think he's kind of wimpy, which is tragic, because it's the reason I love this story that's in this book, which I'll try to tell you quickly. It's 1952, Deep River, Ontario, which is just up the Ottawa River from Ottawa. One of the first nuclear reactors in the world is built there. It's a research facility, and it's full on Homer Simpson level accident happens at this, and I won't go into that now because it's too complicated, but it's like this whole Rube Goldberg moment of accidental mishap.
That was really,
and it leads to a meltdown, or a meltdown starts, and they're panicking. What do we do? Oh my God! They call the U.S. government. They're like, "Can you help us? This is a disaster." And the U.S. military is like, well, we got this kid who is one of our nuclear sub technicians. He's a master of the technology, and he's a good leader. We're going to send him up to help you out. And that was a 25-year-old Jimmy Carter. And he gets up to Deep River, Ontario, and the reactor is melting down, and they have to dismantle it. But the radiation is so intense that they figure out you can only be exposed to this core for 90 seconds at a time. So they build a replica of the core on a tennis court nearby, and they start rehearsing dismantling this thing and just like drilling it over and over again, because they're going to do like this tag team, NASCAR pit crew thing where they just run in one person or, a few people 90 seconds at a time. And they start the work, and they're running in 90 seconds at a time. They come out, and then each time they do something on the core, they do the same thing on the replica outside. So they're keeping track of everything. And then Jimmy's part of the last team that goes in, and they get this thing fully done, and they prevent the meltdown. And there's still a lot of fallout. Like there's a ton of irradiated water. It's still a small disaster, but it's not an epic disaster. And they were still worried that these men might suffer consequences from the radiation exposure, like not being able to have children, et cetera. Thankfully, not the case. Jimmy went on to have 4 very healthy children, but his pee was radioactive for like 4 months afterwards.
That's so wild.
Pretty cool. Yeah.
That is a good one.
Like, I'm guessing it was was it green?
That is I'm picturing it glowing.
Yeah. Or maybe just like a neon yellow.
Maybe just really like when you have a lot of vitamins, But these are the bad ones.
Yeah.
So you talk about this a little bit in the introduction, but I would love to hear, this is a hell of a time to be writing a book about catastrophic events in American history that are a little bit funny, but also catastrophic. And I would love to know how working on all this history, doing all this research, thinking about all these other eras has impacted how your perspective on what's happening in this time that we're in now.
Well, it's oddly, I'm actually really glad that I went down these rabbit holes on these terrible situations, because there's for 2 reasons. One is that it makes me feel a lot better about a lot of my own bad choices. But in a more macro way, the thing about all the snafus in this book, and some of them feel pretty massive and catastrophic, we got through them, right? People got through them. People persevered. People managed to find a kind of equilibrium afterwards. And that, I think, is just an important idea to hold on to in moments like this. And that's not to diminish the gravity of the moment we're in, or even say I would never say everything's going to be fine.
Sure.
Read my book. Everything works out. I would never say that, but I think there is reading about these snafus makes it feel like there's a path, and hopefully we can find it, if that makes sense.
That does make sense.
And I find that reassuring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Were there any stories that you wish you could have gotten in here that just didn't work for one reason or another?
I mean, there are a lot that I love that are just too public or too too big,
too well-known.
Like ones that we went into that I think are really cool and fascinating, or like the Donner Party. And
yeah, I
mean, not cool is the wrong word for that, but it is a fascinating incident. And that might make it into, there's another the podcast is sort of evolving in season 4, and I think I'm eager to tell more stories like that people know, but just give more.
That's cool.
Detail about. Another one that was really kind of on the chopping block for the book, but didn't really fit the time. The book is organized in decades, and it starts in the 50s, basically up to the present. And there's an incredible, one of my favorite snafus from the early 1900s is the Ernest Shackleton adventure. Does anyone know that story? Man, that is so cool. Ernest Shackleton was a polar explorer and led a team on a ship named the Endurance on a trek. The plan was to cross Antarctica, be the first to cross Antarctica. Someone had already made it to the South Pole. He's like, that guy's a wimp. I'm going to cross the fucking thing. And so that was back when like British explorers were just like, it was such a macho thing. But they get down there, they get trapped in the ice, and they live on the boat for months and months, and then the ice crushes the boat, and then they live on the ice for months and months. They're just eating seals and penguins. No, not penguins. Yes, penguins. And then they have to hike to the shore. The ice is breaking up, so a couple of them take these lifeboats that they hauled with them for like tens of miles and sail a lifeboat to Elephant Island, which is like 200 miles away or something. And then but there's no one there, so they have to go to another island, and then they land on the wrong side because the weather's terrible, and so they have to hike over a mountain range, and they get there, and there's this tiny whaling outpost, and they're like, all right, we'll take you to Argentina. As he goes there and gets a big ship to come back and rescue the people still on Antarctica. And this is over a year, and they all survived. Every single person survived.
That is wild.
And it is so breathtaking. And there was a photographer. There's photographs of this whole thing. Mm-hmm. And you can see the Endurance just like in the ice. And it's just incredible.
Has anyone made a movie of that?
What's that?
Has anyone made a movie of that?
It's been tried a couple of times. And one was fairly recent. I think it has to be a movie.
I mean, it's epic.
Right?
That's nuts. Yeah.
Feels like I'm pretty Shackleton-y.
I wasn't going to say it, but I don't disagree.
I mean...
I want to talk to you about Rutherford Falls because it's a wonderful show. And I think the American history aspect of it actually like is kind of resonant with this too. You play Nathan Rutherford, and I think so much of what I found really lovely about that show is the idea of your character being like a huge American history nerd, but then realizing that like there is some reconciliation that needs to happen in terms of like his own family's role in his own town's history.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. That show, thank you for bringing that up. I'm so grateful that I don't get asked about Rutherford Falls very often, and I'm enormously proud of it. There were 2 seasons of it on Peacock, and then it didn't get renewed, which was heartbreaking because I loved it. I really loved that show. It was a show I developed with my buddy Mike Schur, who was a writer on The Office and then went on to create Parks and Rec, and just so many
all the good things. Yeah.
And he and I would always just joke like, when are we gonna work together again? Mm-hmm. So at a certain point, we just started having these long, open-ended conversations about what was kind of activating us and what would be a cool area, and we were very kind of blue sky exploratory. And this I think was in the first. This was around 20. I feel like it was during the first Trump campaign, so like 2015, maybe 16.
That makes sense, yeah.
And so there was just a lot of kind of reckoning with. There was the Charlottesville horrific incident and a lot of reckoning with the past, and a lot of people arguing about the past and arguing about American history and specifics of American history and who was a hero and who wasn't. And so we found ourselves kind of gravitating towards a character that was passionate about history and passionate about his own family's history, and had a very like sort of polished and what would you say? Just a vision of his family's history that was a little rose-colored.
Yeah.
What am I trying to say?
Well, I think
like buttered up a little bit.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
And like, what would happen if that guy who's so passionate about his family that he's actually opened a museum about it,
and well-intentioned and earnest.
Yeah, totally earnest and like intellectually honest.
Yeah.
And just like, and has like he's dealing with all the information that he can get, and that has been passed down, and he just believes all of it. What happens when the scales fall off and he learns that his family is actually horrific and participated in horrible things, and all the stories that he heard are total horseshit. And then early in that process, that was sort of this vague notion that we had. Early in that process, we roped in another brilliant writer, creator, Sierra Teller Ornelas. Yes. And she's Native American and was sort of challenging us on some of the things we were talking about. And then it was like, well, will you do this show with us? And so then it became this whole other thing. And it really became a two-hander about my character and my best friend, who is sort of a cut from a similar cloth, but and runs and is Native American and runs her tribal museum. And so they're both history nerds. They love history. They love each other, but what they find out about history kind of throws a lot of sticks in the spokes, as it were. And it was so thrilling and eye-opening and challenging to work on. And I wish it was still going.
It was so heartfelt and funny and lovely, and it just felt so different than so many things that are on TV these days. I mean, I thought, how many Indigenous folks were in the writer's room? Do you remember? At least like a handful, I feel.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
well, there were probably, I mean, it varied, but
sure.
There were probably 8 to 10.
Yeah,
I mean, it was majority Native American.
Yeah, that just like looks so different than what most writers' rooms.
Yeah, and Sierra became the showrunner for the show.
Yeah,
so she was
great.
She was the head writer and showrunner and directed a bunch of episodes. And the attention and priority that they put on getting the Native American depictions right is just something you don't see in Hollywood very often.
Yeah. I, when the first season came out, I had the great pleasure of interviewing Michael Gray Eyes, who's the casino runner in Rutherford Falls. And he said something that I think about all the time when he was talking about representation, and especially when it came to like TV shows about Indigenous people. And he was like, well, we have the Beatles and the Rolling Stones and the Doors and the Clash and the Cure. And so like, yes, Rutherford Falls is wonderful, but so are like all of these other, North of North is another great, more recent example that just came out. I just think that's such a cool analogy for like, yes, like you can't just have the one thing. You need them all to fill out, like to hear all the different versions. You know?
Yes. Amen.
He's such a smart man.
Michael Gray Eyes is a legend and an absolute delight to work with.
I believe that. Okay, The Office.
Yeah.
Speaking of Mike Schur, here we are. What was it like to come on that show when you did?
It was, it's funny. I get asked a lot, like, was that terrifying walking into that set? Were you scared? I did one of these chats the other day with Adam Grant, And so he was like, he's all into like imposter syndrome. Like, and he asked me, did you feel like an imposter walking on that set? Which is a great question. I mean, we all grapple with imposter syndrome at various times, but that was not the case when I joined that cast, because I was so excited, and the cast was so warm. Everyone was so kind and welcoming, and I had Rashida Jones and I were sort of like, we're the new kids. Like, we had each other to commiserate, but very quickly we didn't even really need each other, because everyone was there for us in such a cool way. No one felt threatened or like, I don't know. It's such a special group of people that it's like one in a million. And it was just instantly fun. Yeah.
That's so cool. I love that.
Yeah.
I was thinking about the voiceover work you've done too, like with the Lorax and Captain Underpants. And it's so interesting to me to think, like, as an adult now, thinking about comedians doing kids stuff and reflecting on, like, my first exposure to Robin Williams was as the genie in Aladdin, and like how interesting that is then to grow up and be like, oh wait, that's that guy, you know? And like, how much of a trip is that for you being that guy?
Well, not Robin Williams, but it's doing the animated movies is the coolest thing ever.
Right?
It's so cool because it's all in your head for so long, and you go into the recording booth and you're just imagining what it looks like, and they're showing you drawings, and sometimes they're even showing you these really, really rough animations called animatics, which are basically like kind of stills of like what it might look like, but you're still kind of really building this movie in your head while you're recording it. And then you see this whole thing come together, and it's just breathtaking. And yeah, it's wild.
That's nuts to me. So you don't see, I guess that makes sense that you wouldn't see the final product as you're voicing it. That had not occurred to me though.
No, I mean, towards the end, you're starting to see things but you're like the Lorax, I think we were recording for 2.5 years.
Oh my God.
Like, cause they start recording you right at the beginning.
Sure.
And then the animator, and then they're constantly rewriting. This is like a huge difference between a live action movie and an animated movie, is that they're constantly changing it. And so you're going back in to re-record scenes, new scenes, and then you find out, oh, that scene's cut now, and everything's changing. And it's this very evolutionary process to get to that final movie. And I don't know, you're such a small cog. There's so many creative geniuses that work on those animated movies. And it's funny, the Lorax in particular, I kind of feel like a little bit of a secret weapon in that movie, because the Onceler has like a cult following. And yeah. But no one knows it's me, or like a lot of people don't know it's me. And so, especially young people, the young people who are obsessed with the Onceler don't know who it is. And then they're like, it's Andy from The Office. Like, I did this movie, Family Switch, last year. There was a Christmas family movie with Jennifer Garner, and our kids. One of our kids is played by Brady Noon, who's a really awesome young actor. He's super funny and super talented. And halfway through the movie, he came up to me and was like, "You're the Onceler?" I'm obsessed with the Onceler. I'm like, how obsessed are you? You didn't know who it was. Like, you never bothered to find out who it was. Anyway,
that's delightful.
I don't take credit for that. That story and the art of those characters is what captures people. It's incredible.
That's so funny. Does it ever, like, have you like pulled that out when you've met a kid just to be like, hey, you know the Onceler?
No, but I have Captain Underpants.
How do they react to that?
They don't believe it. That's the number one reaction. It's like, no way. And I'm like, tra-la-la. And they're like, oh my God. Oh my God. And they pee themselves.
And then you got to clean up the pee. So we're going to switch to audience Q&A. Oh my goodness. Okay, so Ed, what letter grade would you currently assign to our collective national intelligence agencies?
You changed the question. It is, what letter grade would you assign to our collective national intelligence today?
Oh, you're right. I did change it to agencies. Yeah. That's wild.
So
thank God you can also see this screen.
Is that up or down versus the last few decades? I think national intelligence would be different from like our institutional intelligence.
Yes.
Like government.
Yes.
But I think that we're in a terrible state. I don't know, C- or an F in many cases.
I was going to say C- is still passing, right?
Right. You're right. It feels like civics, just basic understanding of the ways that our government works and our history. These are things that most people don't know, don't care about, and that's what makes it seems like that's what makes us so vulnerable to the influence of, well, when you don't understand the world around you and the way that your government works and how it's structured, it leads to this like untethered feeling, which is a nice way of saying anxiety. And when you're anxious and you're fearful, you're going to have more primal responses to things. And I think that's how people, vast swaths of the country line up behind a strongman, because it feels like that's strength. That can fix my anxiety. And it's I don't know. And it also makes, I think, it makes people vulnerable to conspiracy theories when, for example, they don't understand what peer-reviewed papers are or the scientific method is and how it works. And the sort of culture of curiosity and it feels like we're in a stew of we're struggling with not knowing enough.
Yes, you put that very well. So what are some tactics that you use to find humor in catastrophe?
That's not on there.
It was. Well, it was, do you have go-to tactics? So I guess it could be a yes or no question if you would prefer.
Well, it was my job for many years on The Daily Show.
Yes, I wondered how much that had to do with it.
I was on The Daily Show during the Bush administration, and that was the W administration, and that was really fun and exciting. And I think satire is just such a exciting tool to allow us to laugh at these painful things and these sort of scary things. If you can find the right satirical angle or find somebody that is providing that for you, it can be such a powerful release and a way to step outside of something. Comedy needs ironic detachment to function. So, and that detachment can be very, very healthy and very helpful at times.
Mm-hmm. Well, and joy is resistance, right?
What's that?
Joy is resistance.
Sure.
You know?
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about the banjo, or do you want to talk about the different characters that you've played? They're both on there.
What got you into the banjo? Banjo music. I love it. Have I played with Steve Martin? Yes, numerous times.
Oh,
and yeah.
That's really cool.
He's incredible.
So of the characters that you have played, which one would you say is the most Ed Helmsy?
Ooh. They're different parts of me in different versions. I think Andy, there's a lot of me. There's more of me than I care to admit in Andy. But what's funny about Andy is that like he's sort of he's in real life what's going on inside of me a lot.
Oh.
So like he's me with lower emotional intelligence, fewer editing mechanisms, like, and fewer just sort of tools, far less therapy. But there's a lot of ways in which I just intuitively understood Andy and I got what was funny about him, and I got what motivated him and what scared him. And so, yeah, there's a lot of me in him. The character that I like to think is most like me is actually Rusty Griswold, that I played in the Vacation movies, because he was like Stu from The Hangover and Andy from The Office. They're just all fear. They just are operating from like terror about everything going on around them at all times, no matter how mundane or benign. And then Rusty was not like an alpha, but he still had like this like cool he was like, he didn't get rattled, he didn't get triggered. Rusty could still like be in a situation where somebody gets the upper hand, but he would still walk away and be like, fuck that guy. You know what I mean? And I just always loved that he had this equanimity and a kind of like, he kind of knew where he stood in some ways.
Yeah.
I've way overthought Rusty Griswold at this point.
So who's the most different, would you say?
Oh my gosh, I just did a movie, this little tiny independent movie in Canada, and I played a hockey coach who's like evil.
Oh no.
Yeah, like a high school hockey coach who's like abusive to his team. He's like really aggro and screams at these kids, and the director, I got the script, and the director was like, we love you for this because like no one will see it coming.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, I didn't see it coming. Like, good God. But then I was like, this is a really exciting challenge, and it's a beautiful movie. It's a very poignant movie. And I loved that. And so I took it on. So
that's cool.
I don't scream at children.
Yeah,
I'll tell you that.
Is there a release date for it yet?
Is what?
Is there a release date for it yet? Is it out?
Oh, no. It literally just wrapped like a couple of weeks ago.
All right. We'll keep an eye out. Given the fact that The Office is such a comfort watch for so many people, someone wanted to know what your favorite comfort show or movie is.
Seinfeld is one that just always lands for me. I still go back to it a lot. My family, my wife and our girls, we like to watch. There's a beautiful sort of short movie that Apple made called Here We Are. Does anyone know that? It's based on a book by Oliver Jeffers, a children's book. Oliver Jeffers is a beautiful writer, illustrator, and it's an animated movie, but it's so peaceful and it's just gorgeous. There's another kids show that I love, and my daughter is now saying she's too old for, but I'm like, no, we're watching these. And it's called Puffin Rock. Does anyone know Puffin Rock?
I love Puffin.
It's about a bunch of puffins who live on Puffin Rock. And Chris O'Dowd, the Irish actor, is the narrator, and I can listen to him read the dictionary. Like,
yes.
His voice is so just lovely and lilting and kind, and that's what this show is. And it brings me a lot of pleasure.
That's really sweet. We've been watching The IT Crowd, which is also Chris O'Dowd, but I feel like is the exact opposite.
Yeah, for sure. A young Chris O'Dowd. Yeah, that was a feisty. Yes. Yeah, that's a deep cut. That's from like 20 years ago, right?
Yeah, we finally got BritBox. It was a really exciting time for us. Aside from Shackleton, are there any historical figures that you'd like to play? Let's manifest.
Ooh, yeah, all right. Yeah, I guess. Well, there's there's a couple of stories from the podcast that I love. I just love. I want to tell you one, actually, if I can. This will take a minute, but to answer the question first, season 1 of the podcast is this crazy story about a NATO military exercise that the Soviets, this is in 1983, still Cold War, the NATO would do this annual military exercise called Able Archer, and it was all above board. The Soviets knew about it, but they would do these massive troop movements, and it was basically just rehearsing, like, what if a nuclear war happened? How would we handle it? And so, but this particular year, they initiate this exercise, but because tensions are so high for a number of very specific reasons, and we go into great detail in the podcast, the Soviets see this exercise as possibly cover for an actual invasion. And so the Soviets are afraid that the NATO is going to attack them, and they ratchet up their nuclear posture, and we clock that, ratchet up our nuclear posture, and it becomes this insane nuclear standoff that nobody knew about. This was completely under the radar, and it took this one historian doggedly digging after this to finally reveal it. And it's a hilarious, terrifying, and moving story. And we're trying to turn that one into a movie.
Nice.
And there's a character in that I'm super excited to play. That's the long answer to that. So season 2 of the podcast is also an incredible story that again, we want to turn into a movie. I don't know who I would play in this, but this story I really want to tell you because it's very powerful, and it's also instructive to this moment that we're in right now. It's 1971, and the city of Philadelphia is a hotbed of political activism. It's not known for that now, but in the 60s and 70s, it was like ground zero for a lot of civil rights activism and anti-Vietnam War activism. A lot of the activists are feeling like they're being harassed, bullied, surveilled illegally by the FBI. And they're sure of it. And there's nowhere to turn. They can't just like call up the FBI and say, hey, can you look at yourself? Because you're breaking the laws. And so a small group of activists realizes that they have no recourse, and the only thing they can do is break into the FBI and steal files.
Nice.
Which they do. They stage a very elaborate heist at phenomenal risk to themselves and their families. And they break into the FBI and they steal all the files. Now, this is pre-hard drive, so every branch office of the FBI has every file, basically. And this is a field office in Media, Pennsylvania, which is a suburb of Philadelphia. They steal all the files. They go back. They pour through them. They're reading through them. They find documented evidence of these horrific actions that are just trouncing on the civil liberties of people, particularly people of color and what they might think of as hippies, basically all the political enemies of J. Edgar Hoover. And they find evidence. They package these up. They make copies. They send packets to senators and reporters, and everyone chickens out. Oh, they all send it back to the FBI, except for one person, a young reporter at the Washington Post named Betty Metzger. Took it to the Washington Post brass, Ben Bradley, and they had a big row about it. This is pre-Watergate, by the way.
Sure.
So and it's pre-Pentagon Papers. Like they hadn't, Washington
That's
Post,
wild.
No one had ever received stolen intelligence before. And this young reporter, Betty Metzger, is like, we're fucking publishing this. And they get it out there. This leads to, just to shorten the story, it basically leads to the total downfall of J. Edgar Hoover. He's revealed for the criminal he was. He was a national hero right up until this. Had a very well cultivated and curated image, and he was finally revealed for what he was. It led to the Frank Church hearings, which is a famous congressional investigation in which they uncovered COINTELPRO, which was the counterintelligence program, which was essentially the sort of rubric under which all of these horrible illegal actions were done and documented within, in FBI files. The Church hearings are the only reason we have any congressional oversight over all of our intelligence institutions, the FBI, the NSA, the CIA. And it's all because of these 7 people that screwed up the courage to commit this burglary, and then they picked Betty Metzger as one of the people, and she got it done, and it's phenomenal. And by the way, that's a moment. The J. Edgar Hoover years of the FBI are some of the darkest in our law enforcement history as a country, and I think that is a moment to look back on and just for what it's worth. And I'm not saying it's worth everything at all, but it's worth something to know that some courage got us through that period and actually out the other side of it. And we're clearly tumbling towards something that feels close to what that was in a very scary way, but there might be light at the end of the tunnel if courageous people do incredible things.
Yes, yes, yes. Yes.
And I would play anyone in that movie, just to be clear.
Betty, I think courage and a free press, right? I mean,
yeah,
that's a big one.
A press that's not cowed.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
and there were voices within the Washington Post,
I'm sure,
saying, "Don't you dare."
Yeah.
I'm so proud of season 2 of the podcast.
I mean,
I'm proud of all 3 seasons,
story.
but that is a very powerful one. Betty Metzger participated with us.
Oh my
She's
God.
in the podcast.
So cool.
She wrote she wrote a book called The Burglary that came out in 2014. That's like the full accounting of all of it. And she became very close with all the burglars who were never caught. They were never caught. They never squealed on each other, and they were never caught, but eventually the FBI closed their investigation, and so they came forward. We spoke to, they're not all still alive, but we spoke to the ones that are alive. They're all in the podcast.
That's really
and I'm getting chills talking about it.
Amazing.
It was so powerful. I did one of these talks in New York City a couple of days ago. Betty came to it and got a standing ovation when I called.
I mean, yeah, that's amazing. That's really cool. Someone wants to know what your favorite Daily Show assignment was. Was it Alaska?
It was. I did go to Homer, Alaska. Yeah, your home state. No, that one. That was pretty good. But probably my favorite was. Well, there's 2 that kind of compete. One was this was early on. One of my first segments was Katie Couric had just gotten a colonoscopy and on camera, and a lot of news reporters were like getting medical procedures on camera, and which was honestly like good reporting, because these are important things to report on. But also they were a little sensationalized and a little like kind of like, look how courageous I am to some of it, and so of course we had to make fun of it, and so we did this like very dramatic medical piece in which I got a mole removed, and. And it's just such a clean joke, and that those are the best ones when the joke is like very simple.
Yep.
And that was a fun one.
That's delightful. I think our closing question should be about Nard Dog,
All right.
because someone wanted to know how that nickname came to be.
Oh, Gosh,
Was it the writers? Do you remember?
Yeah, I think it was the writers. There was a really cool thing that happened on The Office, and I think happens on any great TV show, which is that there was this beautiful feedback loop between the writers and the cast where we would improvise something or just like say something in a funny way, and the writers would be like, oh, we have to do more. They'd see that and like do more of that. And then of course the writers are constantly endowing our characters with new traits or things, and we're picking those up and running with them. And so it's just this really fun collaboration. And Mike Schur was always, for me, like we would huddle up and just brainstorm Andy Bernard-ness. Like we both thought Andy Bernard was so funny. And I think, no, I don't remember the episode where Nard Dog came out. Maybe it definitely was the writers, because I feel like the episode kind of like hinged on it. But
It's so good.
but lots of things like just kind of bubbled out of me, like do like that wasn't in any script. I don't know. I don't even know how you spell it, but yeah.
That makes me think of Big Tuna also.
Yeah, Big Tuna was in the script for sure. But I think I to put some top spin on that one too with large albacore, I called him once. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's delightful. Well, Ed Helms, thank you so much. It was such a pleasure to talk with you about
Thank
the
you
books
so
of your
much.
career. Thank you.
Thank you, Chicago.
Thank you.
Greta Johnsen, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much, Greta.